What if I told you that the reason you are not happy is because you are trying too hard to be happy? Yes, the more you chase happiness, the more it seems to run away. Stay with me till the end. The last lessons will truly change your perspective. Because today, I want to invite you on a journey from chasing feelings to building meaning. Many of us wake up every day with a silent question in our heart. Am I happy? We check our phone. We check our bank balance. We check our relationships. We check our social media likes. But rarely do we check our purpose. You see, this generation has more comfort than any generation before. More technology, more convenience, more options, and yet more anxiety, more comparison, more emptiness. Why? Because we have confused pleasure with purpose. We have mistaken excitement for fulfillment, and that confusion quietly drains us. I've met young professionals earning well but feeling lost, students topping exams but feeling anxious, entrepreneurs building companies but feeling hollow. And I realized something powerful. Happiness is a byproduct. Purpose is the foundation. So today, let me share with you 7 lessons that shifted my own understanding. And if you allow them to sink in, they may transform your life. Now, let's begin with the first lesson. There is something very subtle about happiness that most of us misunderstand. We treat it like a permanent address. We believe once we achieve the right salary, the right relationship, the right body, the right recognition, we will finally arrive at happiness and stay there forever. But happiness does not work like that. Happiness is a visitor. It comes, it delights you, and then it leaves. Think about it carefully. The day you received good news, maybe a promotion, an admission letter, or appreciation from someone important, you felt wonderful. But did that feeling remain forever? No. After some time it settled. The mind moved to the next desire. The heart searched for the next milestone. That is the nature of emotions. They rise, they peak, they fade. But purpose is different. Purpose is not a feeling. It is a direction. When you build your life around feelings, your stability depends on circumstances. If things go your way, you feel happy. If things don't, you feel lost. But when you build your life around purpose, your direction remains steady even when emotions fluctuate. Let me share something I once reflected upon deeply. I met a man who woke up every single day at 4:30 in the morning. Not because he was forced to, not because someone paid him extra, but because he believed his work mattered. He worked in a small community, helping children who could not afford education. His life was not glamorous. It was not luxurious, but it was meaningful. When I asked him, "Do you feel happy every day?" he laughed and said, "Not every day is happy, but every day is worth it." That is the difference. Happiness asks, "How do I feel today?" Purpose asks, "Why am I here today?" One is emotional. The other is existential. When your life is built only around chasing good feelings, you become addicted to highs. You constantly need stimulation. You constantly need something exciting. And when life becomes ordinary, which it often does, you feel bored, restless, dissatisfied. But when your life is built around purpose, even ordinary days feel meaningful. You wake up not because you feel like it. You wake up because something matters. And here is something powerful to understand. Happiness is unstable because emotions are unstable. But purpose can be stable because it is rooted in values. Values do not change every morning. If you value growth, service, integrity, love, then even on difficult days, you remain anchored. You may not feel cheerful, but you feel aligned. And alignment gives peace. Imagine a ship in the ocean. The waves represent emotions, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy. If the ship has no anchor, it drifts wherever the waves push it. That is a life chasing happiness. But if the ship has an anchor, even when the waves move, it does not lose its center. Purpose is that anchor. Now ask yourself honestly, what is anchoring you? If your anchor is approval, you will panic when criticized. If your anchor is money, you will panic when finances fluctuate. If your anchor is attention, you will panic when ignored. But if your anchor is purpose, you remain steady. And here is something else that is deeply liberating. When you stop demanding that every day must feel happy, you reduce pressure on yourself. Many young people feel something is wrong with them because they are not constantly excited. But life is not a movie. It is a rhythm. There are high notes and low notes. There are bright mornings and quiet evenings. Purpose allows you to embrace all of it. When you build purpose, you don't wake up chasing dopamine. You wake up honoring responsibility. You don't ask, will today make me feel good? You ask, how can I make today meaningful? And ironically, that shift creates deeper happiness than you ever chased before. Because happiness that comes as a byproduct of purpose is more peaceful. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is calm. It is grounded. It is sustainable. So instead of designing your life around temporary feelings, design it around contribution, growth, and integrity. Feelings will visit. Some days, joy will come. Some days, frustration will come. Some days, excitement will come. Some days, doubt will come. Let them come and go. But let your purpose stay. When purpose becomes your resident, happiness will never need to be chased again. It will simply knock on your door from time to time, and you will welcome it without clinging to it. There is a quiet battle happening inside you every single day. A battle between what feels good now and what will build you for life. Pleasure is immediate. Purpose is gradual. Pleasure whispers, just relax, just scroll a little more, just eat a little more, just avoid this discomfort. Purpose says, grow, stretch, improve, become. And most of the time, pleasure wins. Not because you are weak, but because pleasure is loud and purpose is quiet. Think about this. When you sit down to watch something entertaining, your mind feels light instantly. There is no resistance. It is easy, effortless, comfortable. But when you sit down to learn a new skill, to exercise, to repair a broken relationship, to work on a dream, there is resistance, there is friction, there is discomfort. Growth almost always begins with discomfort. And here is the dangerous illusion. Pleasure feels like happiness, but it is not fulfillment. There is nothing wrong with enjoying life. Let me be clear. Laughter, rest, entertainment, they are beautiful parts of being human. But when pleasure becomes your compass, you slowly drift away from your potential. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people after a long day of work. One says, I deserve to unwind, and spends 4 hours scrolling through endless content. The other says, I deserve to grow, and spends 1 hour reading, exercising, or building a side skill before resting. Both felt tired. Both deserved rest. But one chose comfort as an escape. The other chose discipline as an investment. 5 years later, their lives will look very different. Not because of one big decision, but because of small daily choices between pleasure and purpose. Pleasure excites you in the moment. Purpose strengthens you over time. And strength is more valuable than excitement. When you go to the gym for the first time, your muscles hurt. It is uncomfortable. You question why you even started. But slowly, something changes. Your posture improves. Your energy rises. Your confidence grows. The same happens with character. When you choose to wake up early even when you want to sleep. When you choose to apologize even when your ego resists. When you choose to work hard even when nobody is watching. You are strengthening your inner muscles. And here is something powerful to reflect on. What you repeatedly choose shapes who you become. If you repeatedly choose comfort, you become fragile. If you repeatedly choose growth, you become resilient. Resilience brings a deeper joy than pleasure ever can. I once spoke to a young professional who told me, I just want to be happy. I don't want stress. I asked him gently, do you want a meaningful life or a comfortable life? He paused. Because meaning often requires effort, responsibility, commitment. We admire athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders. But we forget something important. Behind every success story is 1,000 moments where they chose purpose over pleasure. They chose practice over partying. They chose preparation over procrastination. They chose growth over gratification. And here is the paradox. The discipline that feels restrictive today becomes freedom tomorrow. When you are financially disciplined, you gain financial freedom. When you are emotionally disciplined, you gain peaceful relationships. When you are spiritually disciplined, you gain inner stability. Purpose asks you to delay gratification. Pleasure asks you to consume instantly. And in a world of instant everything, patience has become rare. But purpose cannot be microwaved. It is slow cooking. It simmers quietly while you keep showing up. And the flavor of that life, the depth, the richness, is incomparable. Now ask yourself honestly, what am I feeding more, my impulses or my intentions? Because impulses are reactive. Intentions are deliberate. One leads to regret. The other leads to growth. Every time you resist short-term pleasure for long-term purpose, you strengthen your willpower. And willpower is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, you will notice something extraordinary. The things that once felt difficult become natural. The discipline that once felt painful becomes empowering. The habits that once felt forced become part of your identity. You no longer wake up asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" You wake up saying, "This is who I am." And that is powerful. Because when your identity shifts from chasing feelings to building strength, your confidence becomes unshakable. You are no longer controlled by mood swings. You are guided by values. And here is the beautiful truth. Real happiness is not the thrill of pleasure. It is the quiet satisfaction of knowing you are becoming someone stronger, wiser, more disciplined than you were yesterday. Pleasure fades quickly. Strength compounds. And a life built on strength can withstand storms. So the next time you are faced with a choice between comfort and growth, pause. Ask yourself, will this make me feel good now? Or will this make me better later? Choose wisely. Because the person you become tomorrow is being shaped by the choices you make today. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to disconnect from your purpose. And the strange thing is, we do it almost automatically. You wake up in the morning, open your phone, and before you've even brushed your teeth, you have already compared your life to 10 other people. Someone is traveling. Someone is getting married. Someone bought a new car. Someone launched a startup. Someone looks fitter. Someone looks happier. And slowly, without realizing it, your peace begins to slip away. Comparison does not just steal happiness. It confuses your direction. Because the moment you start chasing someone else's version of success, you abandon your own calling. Let me explain. Imagine a fish looking at a bird flying in the sky. The fish thinks, flying must be freedom. Flying must be happiness. Why can't I do that? So it jumps out of the water trying to imitate the bird. What happens? It suffers. Not because flying is bad, but because flying was not its design. The fish was built to swim. The bird was built to fly. And you were built for something uniquely yours. When you compare, you disconnect from design. You start believing that if something works for someone else, it must work for you. But purpose is not mass-produced. It is handcrafted. Comparison creates unnecessary pressure. You begin to rush. You begin to doubt. You begin to feel behind. Behind whom? Life is not a racetrack. It is a personal journey. There is no universal timeline that says, by 25 you must have this, by 20 you must achieve that, by 25 you must settle down in a particular way. These timelines are social constructs, not spiritual truths. I once met a young man who was deeply anxious. All his friends were getting promotions. Some were starting businesses, some were moving abroad. He felt stuck. He said, "I feel like I am falling behind." I asked him gently, "Behind whose plan? Yours or theirs?" That question silenced him, because he had never truly asked himself what he wanted. He only measured himself against what others were doing. Comparison shifts your focus from contribution to competition. Instead of asking, "How can I grow?" you ask, "How can I beat?" Instead of asking, "What is meaningful for me?" you ask, what looks impressive to others. And when your decisions are driven by impressing others, your soul slowly feels empty. You may achieve the title, you may get the applause, but inside there is confusion, because you climbed a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. And here is something very important to understand. Social media amplifies illusion. People share highlights, not struggles, victories, not doubts, celebrations, not insecurities. You compare your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel, and that comparison is unfair. Everyone has battles, everyone has fears, everyone has moments of loneliness, but those are rarely posted. When you compare constantly, you begin to shrink your own uniqueness. You ignore your strengths. You undervalue your progress. You dismiss your growth. And slowly, you start living someone else's script. Purpose requires self-awareness. And self-awareness cannot exist in constant comparison. You cannot hear your inner voice when the noise of others is too loud. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is disconnect, not from people, but from unhealthy comparison. Instead of asking, why is their life better? Ask, what is my next step? Instead of asking, why am I not there yet? Ask, what can I improve today? The only comparison that truly serves you is between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Are you a little wiser? A little calmer? A little more disciplined? A little more compassionate? That is growth. When you focus on your journey, you move with clarity. When you focus on others' journeys, you move with insecurity, and insecurity is exhausting. Let me share something deeply liberating. Your pace is part of your design. Some trees grow quickly but live short lives. Some trees grow slowly but stand strong for centuries. Growth speed does not determine value. Alignment does. When you align your actions with your values, you stop feeling rushed. You start feeling rooted. You begin to appreciate your path. You begin to trust your timing. And trust brings peace. So the next time you feel that familiar sting of comparison, pause. Take a breath. Remind yourself that chapter 10 cannot be compared to my chapter 3. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not inadequate. You are unfolding. And when you stop comparing, you create space for clarity. And in that clarity, purpose becomes visible. We live in a world that constantly tells us to consume more content, consume more food, consume more products, consume more experiences, scroll more, buy more, upgrade more. And somewhere along the way, we began believing that fulfillment comes from accumulation. If I get more, I will feel more. But here is a quiet truth. Consumption fills time. Contribution fills the soul. There is nothing wrong with enjoying life as comforts. A good meal, a beautiful trip, a new gadget. These are not enemies. But when consumption becomes the center of your existence, something inside starts to feel heavy. Because the human heart was not designed only to take. It was designed to give. Let me ask you something simple. Think about the last time you helped someone sincerely. Maybe you listened to a friend who was struggling. Maybe you guided someone younger than you. Maybe you supported your parents in a small but meaningful way. How did you feel afterward? There was a quiet satisfaction, wasn't there? Not loud excitement, not dramatic thrill, but a calm, warm sense of meaning. That feeling is different from pleasure. Pleasure excites. Contribution fulfills. When your life becomes centered around, what can I get? You constantly feel lacking. Because there is always more to get. But when your life shifts to, what can I give? Something changes. You feel valuable. Purpose begins when you realize that your existence can improve someone else's experience of life. I once met a school teacher who worked in a modest environment. No grand salary, no glamorous recognition. Yet she radiated joy. When I asked her what kept her going, she said, every year, I get to shape the future of dozens of children. That is enough. She wasn't consuming applause. She was contributing growth. And that gave her purpose. You see, consumption makes you dependent on the world. Contribution makes the world benefit from you. That shift is powerful. When you focus only on consuming, your happiness depends on what the world gives you. When you focus on contributing, your meaning depends on what you choose to give. And giving is within your control. You may not control the economy. You may not control social media trends. You may not control how others behave, but you can control your intention to serve. Contribution does not always mean grand gestures. It can be as simple as being present in a conversation, doing your job with integrity, encouraging someone instead of criticizing, choosing patience over anger. Small acts done consistently build a meaningful life. And here is something very important. Contribution builds self-worth in a healthy way. When your worth is based only on achievements, it feels fragile. One failure can shake you, but when your worth is connected to contribution, you feel grounded, because no matter your position, you can always add value. A student can contribute. An employee can contribute. A parent can contribute. An entrepreneur can contribute. Your stage in life does not limit your ability to serve. And when you begin serving, something interesting happens. Your problems shrink, not because they disappear, but because your focus expands. When you think only about yourself, your worries feel enormous. When you think about how you can uplift others, your perspective widens. You begin to see life as interconnected. The happiest communities are not the ones with the most consumption. They are the ones with the strongest contribution. Families thrive when members serve one another. Teams thrive when members support one another. Societies thrive when individuals act responsibly. Contribution creates connection. And connection is a deep human need. Many people today feel lonely despite being constantly connected online. Why? Because consumption is passive. Contribution is relational. Scrolling through someone else's life does not create belonging. Showing up for someone does. When you shift from consuming validation to contributing value, your confidence changes. You no longer chase attention, you build impact. And impact is more fulfilling than attention. Let me gently challenge you today. Instead of asking, what do I feel like doing? Ask, what does this moment require from me? Instead of asking, what can I gain? Ask, what can I improve? When you start your day with the mindset of contribution, even ordinary tasks become meaningful. Work is no longer just for salary. It becomes service. Relationships are no longer just for comfort. They become opportunities for growth and support. Even your personal development becomes contribution. Because the stronger you become, the more you can give. And here is the beautiful paradox. When you stop obsessing over your own happiness and start focusing on meaningful contribution, happiness quietly begins to appear, not because you chased it, but because you aligned with something bigger than yourself. You were never designed only to consume the world. You were designed to add to it. And when you live like that, your life stops feeling empty. It starts feeling purposeful. We live in a world of instant gratification, instant coffee, instant downloads, instant replies, instant results. You post something, you expect likes within seconds. You send a message, you expect a response immediately. You start something, you expect visible progress quickly. And when it doesn't happen fast enough, frustration begins. But purpose does not operate on the timeline of impatience. Purpose unfolds slowly. It is like planting a seed. The day you plant it, you see nothing. The soil looks the same. There is no visible progress. And if you are impatient, you might think, maybe nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is building underground before growth becomes visible above ground. And that is how purpose works. Many people quit not because they lack talent, but because they lack patience. They start learning something new. They start building a business. They start improving their health. They start working on themselves. And when results are not immediate, they doubt. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe I should try something else. But here is the truth. Meaningful growth takes time. Imagine if a tree demanded fruit in its first week. It would collapse under its own expectation. Growth has seasons. There is a season of preparation, a season of effort, a season of waiting, and eventually a season of results. When you chase happiness, you expect constant excitement. When you build purpose, you accept phases of silence. And silence is not failure, it is formation. Let me share something powerful. I once met a young entrepreneur who worked tirelessly for 3 years with almost no recognition. His friends were progressing faster. Some were earning more. Some were receiving awards. He felt invisible, but he continued. Not because he felt happy every day, but because he believed in his purpose. In the 4th year, something shifted. His consistency began to compound. People started noticing. Opportunities opened, but what most people saw was sudden success. What they did not see was patient perseverance. Purpose asks you to continue when motivation fades. Motivation is emotional. Commitment is intentional. Some days you will feel inspired. Many days you will not. If you rely only on feelings, you will stop when enthusiasm drops. If you rely on purpose, you will continue even when it feels ordinary. And ordinary days build extraordinary lives. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active consistency. It is showing up even when results are invisible. It is trusting that your effort matters even when applause is absent. When you water a plant daily, you do not dig it up every evening to check if it is growing. That would destroy it. Yet in life, we constantly dig up our progress by doubting it too soon. We want guarantees. We want timelines. We want proof. But purpose requires trust. Trust in the process. Trust in your growth. Trust that character built slowly becomes unshakable. Here is something deeply comforting. Slow growth builds strong foundations. Fast success without character often collapses. But when your growth is patient, your foundation becomes solid. You become less reactive, less desperate, less anxious. You understand that life is not a sprint. It is a marathon. When you plant something meaningful in your life, a skill, a relationship, a habit, a vision, give it time. Do not compare its timeline to someone else's harvest. Every seed has a different rhythm. And here is the beautiful part. Patience transforms you internally. While you are waiting for external results, internal strength is forming. You become disciplined. You become focused. You become resilient. And resilience brings a deeper satisfaction than quick success ever could. When you look back years later, you will not be proud of the shortcuts you took. You will be proud of the days you continued despite doubt. You will be proud of the nights you worked quietly, the mornings you woke up early, the times you resisted quitting, because those were the moments your character was being sculpted. Purpose is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in seasons of perseverance. So if today you feel like nothing is happening, if you feel unseen, if you feel progress is slow, do not give up. Roots are growing. And when the roots are strong, the tree can withstand storms. Stay patient, because what grows slowly lasts longer. We all want a meaningful life. We want success. We want respect. We want inner peace. We want happiness. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Purpose demands responsibility. And responsibility is heavy. It is easy to say, I want to grow. It is harder to say, I am responsible for my growth. It is easy to say, I want better relationships. Because if your choices created your current patterns, your choices can change them. Many people chase happiness while avoiding responsibility. They want success without discipline, peace without self-control, respect without integrity. But life does not reward intention. It rewards action. And responsibility is the bridge between intention and action. When you take responsibility, your posture changes. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for motivation. You begin acting. Even when it is inconvenient, even when it uncomfortable, even when no one is watching. That is maturity. And maturity builds purpose. There is something powerful about looking in the mirror and saying, my life may not be perfect, but I am responsible for improving it. That sentence removes victimhood. Victimhood keeps you small. Responsibility makes you strong. I once met a young man who constantly complained about his career. He blamed his manager, his colleagues, the company culture. One day I asked him, "Have you upgraded your skills this year?" He paused. He hadn't. He was waiting for external change without creating internal change. The moment he decided to take responsibility for his learning, everything shifted. Within a year, he found better opportunities, not because the world suddenly changed, but because he did. Responsibility is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being honest. Honest about your weaknesses. Honest about your habits. Honest about your excuses. And here is the beautiful truth. Responsibility builds self-respect. When you consistently do what you say you will do, you trust yourself. And self-trust is powerful. When you lack responsibility, you break promises to yourself. I'll start tomorrow. I'll wake up early. I'll control my anger. I'll save money. And when you don't follow through, your confidence weakens. But when you show up consistently, even in small ways, your inner voice changes. You begin to say, "I can rely on myself." That is strength. Purpose is not a dream. It is a disciplined commitment. And discipline is responsibility in action. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of saying, "Someone should fix this," ask, "What can I do about this?" You may not control everything, but you always control something. And the moment you act on what you can control, your life begins to transform. Responsibility is not heavy when you see it correctly. It is the key that unlocks your potential.